Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel if you are returning, and welcome if you are a new viewer. My name is Hannah, and today we are going to be doing a true crime Stitchy time video. I have something stuck in my throat today, so that's really fun for me. It's really fun for me. We're also, if you watch my regular update videos, you know I'm currently looking for a car. I'm filming this on Friday. I might not put it up till Saturday, purely because we do not have internet right now. Again. Oh, I'm so sorry. So that's really fun. No internet. So yeah, this might not be going up till Saturday, tomorrow. But we might be buying my new car today. So that's exciting. So we'll see what I get. We still have to do one more trial of a car, or two different cars, but we'll see what I end up going with today. So there's like gunshots or something happening outside. We live near a gun range, which it's far enough away usually that we can't hear it, but this doesn't sound like it's at the gun range. It sounds like it's the opposite direction. So that's fun. Anyway, so today we are going to be talking about the unfortunate murder of Tammy Jo Alexander. Some of you might have heard of this case. I'm hoping that this video is going to be a little bit better than my last one. I feel like I'm a little bit more prepared. My notes are a little bit better laid out in a better way. So we'll get into it. So I am going to reading again off of my notes pretty readily. I forgot. We're also working on World of Disney today. So it is a pattern from Z Anna Cross Stitch on Etsy. Oh, I really hope this whatever gets out of my throat. Okay, so Tammy Jo Alexander. So she was an American victim, and she was found in the town of Caledonia, New York. We're just going to do kind of a brief background, and then we'll get into it. She was found on November 10th in 1979. Whoop! Oh no. Thought I wasn't going to hit the thing today. First time. We'll see how many more times it happens. She had been shot twice, and then she was left in a field off of Route 20 near the Genesee River. After she had run away from home, and her home, she had lived in Brooklyn, or no, not Brooklyn. She lived in Brooksville, Florida, and she had run away earlier that year. So earlier in 1979. She, for more than 3 decades, she had remained unidentified. And she was kind of called the Caledonia Jane Doe. Or they called her Cali Doe for short, just like how we have kind of, Jane Does. She was Cali Doe. And finally in 2015, January 26th of 2015, the police in Livingston County, New York, finally announced her identity 35 years after she had died. That's a long time to go unidentified. That's very sad for all parties involved, to not be identified for 35 years. So we'll go into her death and her discovery. So when she was discovered on the side of the road. So Tammy was discovered the morning of November 10th, 1979. Oh, excuse me. By a farmer in Caledonia, New York, 23 miles southwest of Rochester. The farmer saw red clothing in one of his fields, and so he was, he thought, okay, I don't know, like, what's going on over there. So he went and, you know, looked at it, because he thought that he thought maybe he saw like he thought it was maybe a hunter, so he thought somebody was trespassing on his land and like hunting. So he went and investigated, and then he found, you know, the body of a young woman, and he called the police. So she was fully clothed, and she showed no signs of sexual assault. So granted, it had rained, so we'll get into that, but she showed no signs of sexual assault. They ruled that she had died from a severe hemorrhage, caused by 2 gunshot wounds, one to the head, over the right eye, and one to the back. So that's kind of like a question of, was she trying to run away? Like, if they shot her in the back, was she trying to run away from whoever had taken her, or had, you know, had her? I don't know. It's interesting. And then I'm not sure. It doesn't really, I don't think it says the one over her eye. I'm not sure whether it says where it entered, if it entered in the back of her head or the front of her head. Because if you think about it, if she was shot in the back, if that was the first shot, I'm not sure if that was the first shot, but if that was the first shot, she would probably fall forward. And then did they go like in to make sure she was dead? I don't know. Oh, okay, so that does say. So the wound on the head indicated she had apparently not turned or flinched, a common phenomenon of a headshot, and the entry wound suggested complete surprise. So yeah, I think that she was probably running away. With her pockets turned inside out to indicate that any identification she carried had been removed. The investigators later named her Caledonia Jane Doe, or Cali Doe, as they worked to identify her. So whoever had attacked her had taken like all of her stuff. Oh, I keep on hitting I was trying really hard today to not hit the thing. So yeah, so they took all of her like identification. So if she had a driver's license or anything like that, she didn't have any ID on her to be kind of found. The autopsy indicated that Tammy had first been shot in the head. So this is where my questions are answered. While next to the road bordering the cornfield, or near a blood spot found on the ground. She was dragged into the cornfield, where she was shot again in the back and left for dead. So she was hit in the head first, like shot in the head first. And then she was pulled into the cornfield, and they shot her in the back, I guess, just to be sure she was dead. I'm not sure. You would think, like, if you shot somebody in the head, you'd assume that they were probably dead or would be dead. I don't know. So heavy rains on the night of Tammy's death washed away a large portion of potential forensic evidence, such as physical and DNA traces of the perpetrator on her body and clothes. So that sucks, that it rained and nobody had found her before it rained. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry guys, hold on, counting. But that's just kind of a brief overview of like how she was found. So let's get into the investigation. So in the 1980s, John York had been one of the first Livingston County deputy sheriffs on the scene in 1979. And he was elected sheriff. So he was a deputy sheriff on the scene. And then in the 1980s, he was elected sheriff. So he worked, as a sheriff until 2013, and he ensured that the Cali Doe investigation remained active. So he was really involved, and he wanted to find out who this girl was. Who was she? Where was she from? He wanted to know. Before she was identified, Tammy was estimated to have died between the ages of 13 and 19. So again, they weren't sure how old she was. She was somewhere between 13 and 19, which I believe they were right, because if I remember correctly, she was 16. We'll get into that in a minute. She was also estimated to be 5 feet 3 inches and 120 pounds. She was described as having brown eyes and wavy light brown shoulder-length hair that had been lightened in the front about 4 months prior to her death and was growing out. Her hair appeared to have been dyed from blonde to brown, and her toenails were painted with coral-colored polish. So, hold on. I'm lost. So there's a little bit of her physical identification. Tammy had visible tan lines from a halter top or a bikini. So that indicated that she may have come from a region with abundant October to November sunshine. Because remember, it's January. Or no, I'm sorry, it's November. And so, you know, if she has tan lines in October, November, she's got to be from somewhere warm. I mean, warmer than New York in October and November. Because sun tanning beds were not common in the 1970s. And again, upstate New York wasn't considered a warm or sunny enough place for tanning during that time of the year. Now, I'm in Maryland, so I'm not too far away from New York. And yeah, it's not warm. I mean, it can be warm-ish in October. You know, past couple of years, it's been not too cold, but it's not warm enough to, like, get a tan, you know? It's not Florida. Hold on one second. Let me just mark off. Okay. And the other thing was there were freckles on the back of her shoulders. So that also, you know, indicates, I mean, I get freckles in the sun. I have freckles regularly, kind of all over my body, but I get more freckles, obviously, in the sun. So, yeah. Her teeth were in natural condition. She had no restorations or fillings, and it didn't appear as if she had ever received dental care. Like, she had never had, it didn't look like she had ever had, like, braces or anything like that. I'm not sure if that means, like, she'd never had dental care, period. But what I took it to mean was that she'd never had, like, dental work done on her mouth. Some of her permanent first and second molars suffered from severe dental cavities and decay. So I guess maybe that does mean she'd never, like, seen a dentist before. I don't know. 2/1. But none of her wisdom teeth had erupted yet. So, you know, when you're in your teens, early teens, later teens, somewhere in your teens, usually your wisdom teeth start kind of coming out and you can start feeling them. I had my wisdom teeth, all 4 of them, removed, but hers hadn't started erupting yet. So she was young enough where that wasn't happening yet. Her blood type was A negative, and several hours before her death, she had eaten sweet corn, potatoes, and boiled canned ham, which doesn't sound appealing to me, but you know, whatever. It's so crazy that they can, like, find what you've eaten hours before your death. It's just crazy to me. I don't know. It's just wild. There was possibly, or this food was possibly a dinner from a nearby, it was possibly dinner in nearby Lima, where a waitress had seen her eating with an adult man. So evidence, not evidence, a person saw them together, whoever this man was. They don't know. At the time of exhumation, several of the victims' teeth were sent for mineralogical and forensic isotope analysis, and the composition of her teeth could be linked to the composition and mineral content of regional drinking water supplies around North America. So that would allow investigators to determine where she might have been raised. So they were going to use, that's something I've never heard of before. They were going to use like the mineral content in the water to figure out where she was from, because every location has different mineral content. Like where I live here would be different from like Florida, right? We have a different mineral content. And early results in the dental isotopic oxygen ratio indicated that she may have spent her early years in the south or southwest region of the United States. So they were right with that part, which is so cool to me. She was wearing a red nylon-lined man's windbreaker jacket with black stripes down the arms, marked inside with the label Auto Sports Products, Inc. A boy's multicolored plaid button-up shirt with a collar, tan corduroy pants. Hold on one second. What color am I even using right now? Blue knee socks, a white bra, and blue underwear. She wore brown ripple-soled shoes, and if you remember from the beginning, that red jacket was the one that the farmer saw in the field. So, you know, if she wasn't wearing that, they might have never found her. Or, you know, he might have found her way later. The red Auto Sports Products jacket was produced as a one-time promotional item and couldn't be traced after distribution, which is so frustrating. Because most clothes I feel like you can trace, but it just so happened that this one thing that was very like uncommon couldn't be traced. She also wore a silver necklace with, oh, I can't thread my needle, hold on. She also wore a necklace with 3 small turquoise stones. The necklace had a homemade appearance and looked like a replica Native American like jewelry made in the southwestern United States. Attached to her pants' front belt loops were 2 metal keychains, one shaped like a heart with a key-shaped cutout and inscribed with the words, "He who holds the key can open my heart," the other shaped like a key meant to fit the cutout in the heart. The keychains were sold at vending machines along the New York State Thruway, leading investigators to conclude that she and her killer had traveled that route. So that's just a piece of like how she came to be where she was located. I'm not sure about the necklace. Like, I don't know whether that was used to like help them determine where she was from or what, because I know like you can get really jewelry from anywhere to look like it's from anywhere, you know? And maybe it was different in 1979, but I don't know. I mean, I guess it was, because like the internet wasn't as big of a thing. I don't even know if people really used the internet. I think they did just a little bit. But I was not alive in 1979. So the pollen evidence is something that is quite it's a poignant piece of information to know about. What in the heck is happening outside? Somebody is doing something, banging on things. So in 2006, I know we're jumping all the way to 2006, but in 2006, forensic this word, I do not know what this word is. Palynology was conducted on the clothing worn by the victim. Paul Chambers, a recently hired investigator in the Monroe County, New York Medical Examiner's Office, asked for and received permission to send her clothing to the lab at Texas A&M University. Hold on, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wait, what? Hold on, I have to count that again because I think I messed up. Nope, I didn't. Right? I'm correct. Okay. So among the types of pollen found on the clothes by the Texas A&M researchers were grains from Australian pine, which they also call she oak, oak, spruce, and birch. The clothing pollen grains were compared to a control sample of pollen grains taken from the area where she was found in 1979. Oak pretty much grows all over the United States. And spruce and birch grow in New York, but also, multiple other places around the United States too. But no oak, spruce, or birch pollen grains were found in that control sample from the location. So neither spruce or birch trees were found growing near the body dump site. So they didn't exist there. The spruce and birch pollen on the body came from species common in the mountainous areas of California. So it's like, okay, she is from Florida. Did she go over to California before she came over to New York? Like, where was she located? Or where was she from? Australian pine is an invasive genus of the tree that grows in a limited number of locations in North America. So the locations are mainly South Florida, South Texas, and parts of Mexico. The campuses of the University of Arizona and Arizona State University, and 3 regions in California: the North Bay of San Francisco, the San Luis Obispo area, and the San Diego area. So the tree can't survive the autumn and winter seasons in the temperate climate of Western New York, where she was found. So it's not there. So the investigators knew that Tammy and her clothing had acquired the Australian pollen grains at a location other than the dump site. So pretty much all of these grains she had gotten somewhere other than where she was found. Did I already do this one? Yes, I did. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Researchers believe that the Southern California and San Diego region were the best geographical pollen print match location for the grains from the clothing. So they think that she was in California, or at least they don't know whether she was from California or she'd come from California, whatever. They had no idea. Based on the pollen evidence and the girl's visible tan lines, forensic researchers suggested that she may have been living in the southwestern United States near San Diego, then traveled, maybe she hitchhiked, which I know wasn't uncommon, through the Sierra Nevada mountains where the spruce and birch trees grow, and then she passed through Reno, Nevada, and traveled across the country to upstate New York. So in 2012, reexamination of the grains concluded again that they could have originated only from California, Arizona, or Florida. So I don't know, guys. They still didn't know. Okay, I'm missing a color. I'm not missing a color. I have to get a color. So 3854. Sorry if this wiggles you. I have to get my colors out of this box, and you're attached to the table where the box is sitting. And so it moves the table around when I get the boxes. Okay. So the identification of Tammy Jo. So I'll give you some more background on her. So Tammy Jo Alexander was born in Atlanta, Georgia, on November 2nd, 1963. And she attended high school at Brooksville, Florida. Pamela Dyson, Tammy's half-sister, believes that Tammy left to escape a turbulent household. Pamela had a different father from Tammy, and after about age 11, she lived with her paternal grandmother. She said that Tammy's biological father was not really part of the younger girl's life. She grew up with their mother and a stepfather. Their mother had become addicted to prescription drugs, and was emotionally volatile, erupting into temper tantrums. So, a quote from her, she did prescription drugs. Pamela said of her mother, Barbara, she was suicidal. I think she had issues back then, but they didn't diagnose. So, there's that. Tammy's mother, Barbara Jenkins, had worked as a waitress at a truck stop and then was joined by Tammy when she was a teenager. Tammy had a history of running away in this time. Her friend, Laura, said that they sometimes hitchhiked together with truckers, once traveling all the way to California together. When they got there, Laura called her parents, and they paid for airline tickets for both girls so they could return to Florida. So if I remember correctly from like hearing other people talk about this case, when they got to California, Laura was like, okay, I want to go home. Like, I'm done doing this here. Let's go home. And Tammy was like, nope, I don't want to. But she eventually did. And so Laura's parents paid for them to get back home. Okay. So Barbara died on January 17th, 1998 at the age of 56. That's Tammy's mom. And her obituary had listed Tammy as deceased, which the whole family had assumed to be the case at that point. Because if you know, 1998 is what? Like almost 20 years after Tammy had, gone missing or had been found dead, but they didn't know that she was dead at that point. So until the identification, Pamela believed that her half-sister had made a new life somewhere away from her mother and stepfather. She had hoped that it included a happy household with a husband and children. She said, I thought she just wanted to go away and start all over. So, I kind of wish that was the case. I kind of wish that was what actually happened. But Tammy was formally identified on January 26th of 2015, more than 35 years after her discovery. Laura, the friend, she was friends with her from high school in Brookville, Florida. She started trying to reach Tammy in the 2010s by social media. And she eventually reached Tammy's half-sister, Pamela, who lived in Panama City at that point. And she had known that she had run away often from home. And they hadn't lived together, since about age 11, since Pamela was about age 11, right? So she didn't know. She learned that no one in her family knew anything of Tammy's whereabouts since the girl had left sometime between 1977 and 1979. Hold on one second. An ex-boyfriend of Tammy's verified he'd last seen her in the spring of 1979. It's believed that Tammy She hitched a ride while working as a waitress at that truck stop with her mother. Pamela and Laura became concerned that Tammy had fallen victim to a crime after leaving home. Pamela said that her mother did report Tammy as missing. Here's what gets me with this part. She said that she reported Tammy as missing, but she had since believed that since Tammy had a history of running away and returning, police may have not taken the case seriously. So it's like, we reported her missing, but because she does this all the time, like, the police were just like, she's a runaway that does this, like, all the time, so there's no point in even looking for her. It's like, she is young. I don't know, that just makes me really angry. That they just didn't seem to do anything. So in August 2014, now granted, she was found dead in 1979. Finally, in August 2014, the sheriff's office told them no missing persons report had been filed for her, and they promptly filed one. So they thought that her mom had filed one. She didn't. I'm sorry. Like, what kind of person does that? And the best part is, like, she was alive until 1998. So it's literally 20 years. That's just wild to me. I mean, come on. If any of your children go missing, even if they're, like, that's a normal occurrence, they run away often, file a missing persons report. It just makes me mad. So Carl Kopelman, a California artist, came across the missing person report on Tammy as a moderator of the Web Sleuths online community, where volunteers try and solve... Hold on. They try and solve cold cases, including those of the unidentified bodies, because there are usually quite a few of them. In 2010, 4 years earlier, he had sketched the portrait of Caledonia Jane Doe and posted it in the National Missing and Identified Persons System. So it's NamUs. I guess it's NamUs. In September 2014, he saw the new listing of Tammy and quickly realized that they were the same person. So he had sketched her, in 2010, and then he saw her picture in 2014 and was like, I know who this is. Okay. He emailed the Livingston County Sheriff's Office with the copy sent to the NamUs Regional Administrator, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and the Hernando County Sheriff's Office to tell them about the strong resemblance between the two images. And the police arranged to take a DNA sample from Pamela. So, woohoo! We're getting somewhere. In January of 2015, the Monroe County Medical Examiner's Office found that I don't know what mtDNA is, but they found that from an identified body matched Pamela's, confirming that the victim was her half-sister. So a week later, on January 26th of 2015, the Livingston County Sheriff, Thomas Doherty, announced at a news conference that Caledonia Jane Doe had been identified after 35 years. Finally, right? 35 years later. Golly. Pamela said that the family decided to keep Tammy buried in the Greenmount Cemetery in Dansville, New York, planning to hold a service there for her. Pamela said, I'm truly glad for the closure, but it hurts to know she died that way. It's terrible. Nobody should have to be shot and dragged out into the woods. The funeral home in Livonia, New York, said it paid to have the Jane Doe headstone removed and replaced with one reading Tammy Jo Alexander. So they had originally, buried her as Jane Doe, and then they got her a new headstone. A public ceremony took place on June 10th of 2015 when the new headstone displaying her name, her real name, and lifespan was revealed. So, I don't know. I think that's very sweet. Approximately 100 family and community members attended. And this was community members from New York, where she was found, not where she lived. Which just goes to show you, like, how invested this city was in this case, in this Jane Doe. 35 years. I mean, 35 years. Pamela and other family members of Tammy thanked the police and Livingston community for their caring for Tammy and continued efforts to find her killer. Pamela has since urged family members of missing people to enter the subjects into NamUs, saying that this database was critical in achieving her sister's identification, and it was. I mean, they wouldn't have found her without it, I don't think. The Livingston County Sheriff's Office released 3 audio clips of Tammy's voice on November 2nd in 2020, which would have been the victim's 57th birthday. She was believed to have created the recordings during July 1979 on a cassette tape, which she sent to her boyfriend, who kept it in his possession until he provided it to the investigative agency. I don't know. Yeah, okay. So the perpetrator, this is where I get really angry. So Sheriff Doherty said that the investigation would now focus on finding out who killed Tammy after they found out who she was. And he said, "We've always said one of the biggest parts of solving this case is knowing the victim. This case is burning hot. We're going to be working it harder than ever." The former sheriff, Sheriff York, or the former sheriff who was named Sheriff York, later said that more than 10,000 leads had already been investigated in the case. That's a lot. 10,000? That's a lot. Tammy was seen with a white male between 5 feet 8 inches and 5 feet 9 inches tall. He was seen driving a tan station wagon and wore black wire-rimmed glasses. The man was stated to be a person of interest in the case, so he wasn't necessarily like a perp, but he was a person of interest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the police continue to look for him. They still don't know who he is. The waitress at the diner who served those two that night, Tammy and this other man, explained the male companion had paid for the meal. And it doesn't say it in here necessarily, but she also said that, like, they didn't look uncomfortable. Like, it didn't look like Tammy was scared or nervous in any way. So that's something to take into consideration. In 1984, serial killer Henry Lee Lucas confessed to the murder of the unidentified girl without identifying her. Investigators could not find sufficient evidence to, support his confession. And at one time, a now retired sheriff speculated Christopher Wilder, known for murdering, women in the 1980s, and that he may have been responsible. But This theory was rooted in his interest in vehicle racing, and because, I mean, remember Tammy's jacket, that was the same brand of merchandise he was known to purchase. And so they thought maybe because of the jacket, it was him. But Wilder was killed in a police shootout in 1984 before an interview regarding Tammy's case could take place. Police speculated that the murder weapon the killer used was a .38 caliber handgun, and investigators located a spent slug in the dirt underneath the unidentified girl's body, which they compared forensically to hundreds of other bullets fired from confiscated weapons. So they just, had these weapons. Let's try it, right? Despite investigators' efforts to trace weapons from the United States, Canada, Europe, and Mexico, the slug had not been matched to a specific gun. So they could not find the gun that was used to kill her. The FBI posted billboards throughout the country about Tammy's murder in an attempt to gain new information from the public. By the end of February 2015, the Livingston County Sheriff's Office or Department said that they had received many more tips since Tammy's identification. And that's one of the issues I seem to recall, is that, like, once you identify someone, everybody's like, oh, I know information, and they really don't, which is so frustrating. And so they had received many more tips, enough to develop a scenario of events that led up to the girl's arrival in Caledonia. A trucker from Tennessee reported what police said was a significant lead after he had heard a radio broadcast detailing the case. In March 2015, the department said that Tammy had ties to a former prison ministry in Young Harris, Georgia, which specialized in working with individuals on probation or parole. So that could have been a place where she maybe met the person who killed her, unfortunately. By early 2016, the police had identified... Hold on. Guppy, what are you doing? Come here. The police had identified 3 male persons of interest who had known Tammy and took male DNA from her clothing. By November 2016, the FBI had reported that none of the 3 matched the sample from Tammy's clothing and continued to receive and investigate new leads in the case. So far, up to today, we still don't have answers. We don't know who did it. We don't have any kind of answers at all about who killed her, why, any of that. I don't think, unfortunately, that we're going to ever get answers, which, again, is very unfortunate, but, I mean, maybe we will. Maybe I'm just a Debbie Downer, but that is where we leave it. That's where the case ends. There's not much more to it from that, since we don't have answers. I can't give you a nice simple conclusion, but what do you guys think? Do you think it was one of the folks that I mentioned, one of the Henry Lee Lucas or Christopher Wilder, or do you think it was somebody else? Why do you think it was somebody from that prison ministry that she spent some time at? She wasn't, an inmate or anything like that, but she, I think, was just staying there. From what I can remember, she was staying there because she needed somewhere to stay when she was running away from her home life. And they let her stay. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know. Keep me posted. I'm going to put in just the 2 last stitches on this row, and then I will leave you. I'm not sure how easy this will be to see. Again, I know I should probably put it on the other side, but I can't be bothered. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. because I'll hit it. I mean, I hit it more today than I did last time, I think, but I can't do it on the other side. I'll just hit it way too many times because I put my left hand underneath of my hoop, and that one's the one that's constantly kind of like moving. Oops. So I don't want to necessarily hit it every time I move my arm from like underneath the hoop to over the hoop. 5 down 1. Okay. And that is where we're going to leave it today. So we added some more blue here, a little bit of more red, but mostly blue. And yeah, I will see you guys on Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you enjoy listening, or I hope you enjoyed listening about Tammy Jo, or Cali dough. Okie doke. I will see you all later. Have a good one. Bye.